Walter's model is yet another model, which is a dividend policy valuation model that focuses on the relationship between the company's dividend payout ratio and its share price. The Walters model assumes that investors prefer dividends over capital gains. Because when you invest in a company, candidates, there are two categories of returns that you expect on your share. That is dividends and capital gain. Now, capital gain is just the appreciation in the value of a share. If you buy a share at 10 shillings and by the end of the year, you market price of that share grows to 20, then there is a capital gain of 10 shillings. So there are two categories of returns that shareholders can earn by virtue of investing in a company. That is the dividend, which could be paid annually or semi-annually, the return, all right, dividend. Then there is a capital gain. So Walter's model assumes that investors prefer dividends over capital gains. The model also assumes that a company's optimal dividend policy is determined by its cost of capital and its investment opportunities. So what we may require here is just maybe the formula. Next is just to put down the formula, P naught. Based on the assumptions that I've indicated, the Walters model is calculated using the following formula: D naught, which is the dividend, just D. We add the return over KE, because we remember that we said that the model assumes that investors prefer dividends over capital gains, and that the company's optimal dividend policy is determined by its cost of equity. So this R is the rate of return. This KE is the cost of equity. This D is the dividend per share. Then this we multiply by E minus D. E minus D. E is the earnings per share and D is the dividend per share. We get the difference. So that is the numerator. Then this numerator, we divide it by cost of equity. So that's the formula for calculating the value of a share using Walters model, which is a dividend policy valuation model. It is a dividend policy valuation model. The model assumes that the company's optimal policy is determined by the cost of equity and investment opportunities. So you can see, candidates, we just have here the dividend, then you have the cost of equity, these are earnings, and this is the rate. of return. There are just a few inputs: cost of equity, dividend, earnings, rate of return. This is rate of return of the firm's investment. Dividend, cost of equity, earnings, rate of return. Illustration. The EPS of Mashujaa Limited is 10 shillings and the rate of capitalization applicable is 15%. Mashujaa Limited has 3 options of dividend payout ratio. Let's adjust it to 1. The dividend payout ratio is 50%. Let's just say the dividend payout ratio is 50%. Compute the market price of Mashujaa Limited quoted shares as per Waters model if it can earn a return of 20% of its retained earnings. So to calculate the value of the share, we need the dividend. So the EPS of Mashujaa is 10%. Is 10%. So we may need the working here for dividends. The dividend is not given in the question, but we have the earnings and the payout ratio. Therefore, the dividend will be equal to earnings times dividend payout ratio. Dividend payout ratio. The earnings of Mashujaa is 10 shillings. Dividend payout ratio is 50%. So dividend will be half of the earnings, which is 5 shillings. So D is 5 shillings plus the rate. What is the rate from the question? The rate of capitalization is 20% if it can earn a return of 20%. So that is the rate. Cost of equity, we have it. The capitalization is 15%. So 20% converted into decimal is 0.2. 15% converted into decimal is 0.15. So that over that. The earnings, we had earnings of 10 shillings. This E is 10 shillings. Dividend, we have it here, 5 shillings. Then all this we divide by KE of 0.15. What is the price of the share? 77.78. First, before you get to the illustration, the illustration is based on the concept. It is based on the formula. We said that the value of a share based on the finite earnings growth model is that the formula. We say that you get the summation of the present values of the dividends. That is the formula for discount. You discount the dividends. These are expected dividends with 1 plus KE. KE is the cost of equity. So get for year 1, year 2, you discount year 3, then you get the total. So the illustration has two aspects. There is the dividends and the terminal value, PN. You can call it anything. You can call it TV, as long as you understand what it's all about. Terminal value, or the terminal price of the ordinary share at the end of the period, because it is a finite period. It's not endless. This model calculates the value of a stock by projecting its growth for a finite period, a given period. It's not endless. If it's 5 years, in our question it was 5 years. So you calculate you determine the present value of the terminal value, the terminal price of the ordinary share. So this is the terminal price, which is the expected earnings. In our question it was 5 years. You discount it by dividing, you are discounting 1 plus KE. So you add these two, the expected dividends for that period, the finite period. You add the present value of the terminal price of the share. From the illustration, you then look for the dividends, and you'll realize that the dividends are not provided in that question, but you are given the earnings. You are told that the company is expected to grow its earnings. So you grow the earnings first of all for each year. Then in the second last sentence, you read that the company has a dividend payout ratio of 50%. That's why we calculated the dividend by applying the 50% on the earnings that grew at the rate of 20%. So that was the procedure. That's how we determine the dividends. Then after discounting the dividends, we got the total. We got the total. Look at the board. This is summation of the dividends. So year one, we had the dividends. The last column, we had dividends, discounted dividends. We discounted the dividends at this rate. Year one, year two, year three, then we got the total. Is what we inserted here. Then we discounted the terminal price of the share to give us the value of the share. So Jerry, go through the illustration again. Then if you have any other question. So it seems there's no any other question. So candidates, please go through the past papers, attempt questions on areas that we've covered. When we meet next time, we will proceed to do the other valuation models like the discounted free cash flows, the EVA, and the rest. Bye-bye.